Hi everyone, welcome back to Fleecimals Friday. I'm Michelle with Fleecimals, here to teach you some life skills with sewing and crafting. In today's video, I'll be altering my rehearsal dinner dress and taking you along the way. Now, if this isn't the first time you've watched one of our life skills videos, definitely take the time to subscribe. It would mean a lot to us, and you won't miss out on future videos. Now, let's get right into it. All right, so we have our thread that is white, threaded through the machine as well as in the bobbin. That matches my dress the best. If this dress were ivory, obviously I'd choose an ivory thread. If it were pink, pink. Just match your thread to your current dress. I do plan on recording some beginner sewing machine videos, so do stay tuned for those. But having being said, that is what's going to start us off is just having our sewing machine threaded and our dress flipped inside out with our pins on it from trying it on. So I'm going to set my machine to a straight stitch, and I happen to have this very long straight stitch. It's similar to a basting, but not as long. A basting stitch can be as long as 5 SPI. SPI stands for stitches per inch, so that's 5 stitches for an inch. This is going to produce closer to 8 or 9. But the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that this seam that is already existent is exactly facing up. And with some straight pins, I'm going to pin this piece down, because as you can see, it's a lot thicker than this lace, and it does tend to want to move. So I'm just going to take a straight pin and pin through those layers, and do the same on the other side. So pinning through just to keep this from bulging. So my pin, or my safety pin here, is a little loose. That does tend to be because I'm working on kind of a very stretchy lace dress. If this was placed in a fabric that was more like this, that wouldn't be as much of a problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a marking tool. This one I did feature in my Sewing Essentials video. So the blue disappears if you get it wet, whereas the purple just disappears over time and with water. So if it doesn't disappear fast enough, you can use water. So I am just going to mark where this pin lies so I know where to sew, but I can take out that safety pin, as it's really just in my way at this point, especially with the straight pins keeping everything flat. So now I'm going to carefully sew across this purple line, removing the pins as I go. Now this is not going to keep it exactly where I want to have my final seam. It might move a little bit on me. It's the tendency with sewing shoulders on any kind of clothes, especially cap shoulders and sleeveless. So I'm just gonna put my speed low. And slowly sew straight. Oh, well, something's going on with my upper thread. It looks like it broke, so I'm just going to follow my machine's instructions and rethread. This sewing machine happens to be a self-threading sewing machine, which is nice. And just to be sure, bring my bobbin thread up. Okay, let's try that again. I am going to repin this so that way it doesn't move on me. And sew across that purple line. One of the benefits of sewing fabric like this very slowly is with the difference in thickness of material, you do want to go slow so that way your sewing machine can adjust its tension on its own. Because there are tensions up at the top of all sewing machines, but your sewing machine's smart enough to also be able to adjust as well. So now we have that new stitch line. With this basting stitch and with how thin and delicate this lace is, that stitch isn't going to be strong enough to hold. There are a couple of options. One of the options is to do a serge, to serge the edge, use an overlocker, which I do have, which would make the same seam. But another option, if you don't have one of those machines, is to lay it flat like this and sew across and keep it together. I'm going to show you how to do that. This is also a really great method just in case you're not 100% sure with the alterations. You can go back and rip out your seam that you have made, or maybe you grow or you change or whatever may be. This allows you to change where you did your alteration. With a serger, it actually physically cuts the fabric as it sews, so it's more permanent in that sense. So before I do that, I am going to also lay down a stretch stitch, a zigzag stitch, just to give it a little bit more strength, and then I will move on to that. So just going over the exact same spot that I just did. that'll give it a lot more security. So now I'm going to fold it down away from the front of the dress. And we're going, now you could do one of two things. You can stitch through here, or you can simply hand stitch or machine stitch through these pieces. If you were hand stitching, I would recommend just stitching these ribbed pieces together. If you don't have a lace dress, if you have a sewing machine like I do, I'd recommend going straight across. So putting it back on the stitch from earlier. This time I'm going to be sewing from the top, so I can make sure that it sits how I want it to. I don't want the inside piece to show. And you can pin this as well to give yourself a little bit more structure and ease. I'm just going to sew it straight across. Kind of help this. There is a lot of fabric under here, so help that go along. And that is how you can shorten up your shoulders on your dress. I'm going to finish up the other side and then I'll show you what it looks like. So this is how the final dress turned out. The shoulders are no longer gaping at the top, and it fits me snugly, just as I like. Now, one thing I did realize that I didn't mention between the first sleeve and the second is that when you're sewing the second, you should butt up the first one that you did, mark it, and base your second one off your first. That way they're identical. That way if you pinned one a little bit off, this way no matter what, they're at least sewn the same. So had I sewn these differently, maybe this point of my dress would be higher than this one. But use your first one that you fixed in order to fix your second one. Now at the beginning of this video, I did mention that this dress is for my rehearsal dinner, which means yes, I am getting married, and we are excited to finally be able to celebrate after the shutdowns from last year. So for those of you anxious to learn more sewing and crafting life skills, I will be posting one more video, which happens to be the #1 requested video, which is to hem pants before taking a little break, so that way I can put my full focus in getting everything ready for our nuptials. So there will be that one video and maybe a little twist in it as well, and then there will be a break where I can fully focus on the wedding, and I will be back September 24th for another Fleecimals Friday video. But that doesn't mean that the rest of the life skills videos will stop. So definitely check out those with my dad, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.